This is the HomeTech Podcast for Friday, April 7th. From Sarasota, Florida, I'm Seth Johnson.
From Lewis Center, Ohio, I'm TJ Huddleston.
And from Pickering, Ontario, I'm Gavin.
And welcome to the HomeTech Podcast, a podcast about all home automation, smart home gadgets, stuff to go in the house, and of course, what you're all tuning in for, printer talk. Printer talk, we've got to know, Gavin, is your printer printing now? Like, did you figure it out? Did you do anything, and did you fix it? Because, I mean, the amount of questions we've had about your printer that have come in from our social, no, it really hasn't been that many, but we're genuinely curious. Did you get printing again?
I mean, it's more than anything else, though. I honestly, at this point, we could probably just change this podcast to printer talk, and it might be better. I mean, who knows?
The home printer podcast.
You know why? It's because so many people can relate to, having issues with a printer. We all get together. We support each other, have a beer, talk about our printer woes. We're all good, And the great thing about printer talk is our wives will jump in there too, because they have their stories about it not working too. So it's great, it brings people together. But in my case, I just want to thank Justin, it's been working smoothly since, he gave me the suggestion on the settings. And I think he mentioned it was specifically one setting on my Unify called UAPSD, which stands for Unscheduled Automatic Power Save Delivery. Now, what it sounds like this does, it allows devices that support it to save power by keeping their Wi-Fi radio in sleep mode longer. So it kind of lines up with, some of the issues. So once I turned that on, I rebooted my entire setup. I haven't had issues since the printer. I'm happy. The wife's happy. The printer must be happy. So we're all good.
Yeah, it makes sense. Lines up as long as the printer's working. We're going to say problem solved. It's never going to be an issue again.
Let's just bench this for 2 weeks. I mean, in 2 weeks' time, the printer's going to stop working again. Gavin's going to have problems again. And we'll be back in the same situation, enabling and disabling. So.
Okay, I'll save it for end of summer.
You just need a hard wire. I don't know, why do you keep messing around with the Wi-Fi? You just need a hard wire. Just get it over with, Gavin.
They don't even have the Ethernet
trash.
hardwire in these printers anymore. Yeah, I know. Throw more money at the problem. That's how it is.
I just bought a new printer. It's got an Ethernet port.
You want to send it to me?
No, I don't. It was expensive.
See, there you go. But the other annoying thing about this printer, there's another annoying thing about this printer. Between that and my Amazon device, it's been hounding me to change the toner. That toner's low. Now, this is annoying because I keep getting notifications from my Amazon devices. You need to order more toner. Now, if Amazon was doing things properly, they would have known I've already ordered more toner. It's already here. Stop bothering me. But it seems like every few days I get a notification that I need more toner. I don't know how it knows my printer needs more toner. I don't know why my printer needs more toner because it hasn't been printing often.
Alexa can hear your wife saying, the printer's not working.
It's oh yeah, add a toner. That makes sense.
You probably need more toner. Yeah, there you
Printer
go.
AI.
So, it's just a weird... This is such a first world problem.
It happens. It happens to the best of us. We have this AI guide for setting up ruckus Wi-Fi products in your house. So if you were to go out, and I see it cited all over the internet, and people talking about features that we suggest that you turn off, and we have good reasons to turn them off in a residential setting or whatever. But one of them was the fast roaming thing and all these things that people think they need to have turned on that you actually don't need to have turned on. It just causes more problems because you have to have brand new devices, all brand new devices. Your printer has to be new too, Gavin. And then if it has the latest printer with the latest technology stack in it, then it can support that. And your printer has to basically be as updated as the brand new phone that you got, because that's what you're trying to support with these brand new technologies. And that's never the case. So all the fancy stuff that goes into Wi-Fi these days doesn't work across the board. And that's why we recommend turning all the stuff off. You don't need it.
And that seems to be the case with technologies. When you buy a new piece of technology, they kind of rope you in and make you upgrade every other piece it connects to. Like when I brought my new TV, the LG TV, I had to rebuy some of the other equipment that connected to it just so I can get HDMI 2.1 or HDR. The cost never ends with just the TV. It's all the accessories. So they're doing it on purpose.
The surround sound. The sound bar. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Next time you have problems, and by next time I mean in a couple weeks, Gavin, have you ever thought about making like a USB little like print server that you connect to it? You know,
I used to on my Unraid server have a little print server. That was so we can print from our phones before I had AirPrint on it. But you know, then I got this printer with AirPrint built in, so I didn't need it anymore. But maybe I have to go back to that.
to revert back to the old days. Yeah.
I was just gonna make a joke, but I was like, I bet there's a print server for Home Assistant.
No, there's one for Unraid. It's called Cups.
Yeah, that's what they're suggesting using, Cups, which is a Linux print. I recognize that from before, so I guess you can run that on the Home Assistant if you needed to. But it's funny that we're not, I'm not the first one to think of a print server for Home Assistant because it's a Home Assistant is like,
it's got everything.
If something, yeah, if somebody just thought about it, like, I wonder if I can integrate my water hose with Home Assistant. Yeah, somebody's tried that. Somebody has tried it and probably done it.
I think my printer is like one of the first things that Home Assistant picked up, to be honest.
Yeah, no, you grab mine and it's like, here's all the paper you have in it, and here's your levels. I'm going to report this to Alexa for you. So
and you're like, I'm going to print off Daddy is home. Thank you.
There's some add-ons on Home Assistant too that just don't make sense. I think they just created it just to create an add-on. Like it doesn't tie in any way. It just hosts something on your Home Assistant server. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but everything's there. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, it's one of these products where you're like, I wonder if we can do this with this thing. And then like, yeah, somebody not only has like, somebody already made the integration and there's about 100 people using it somewhere and they have all like pitched in too. So it's kind of like, wow, that's impressive. Now, if only I wasn't so lazy not to set the thing up and finish configuring it, because that's really just the problem at this point. Oh man, it's still there though. I've got all those data points going into it. So it's keeping up with stuff. My wind speed, my printer levels, and my water temperature. I guess it measures my water pressure and my water temperature off the flow meter, so that's good.
Nice.
I made some graphs. There's some graphs I made about it. So.
Well, it's true home automation when you have graphs. So
exactly, it wasn't really working until I made that graph. So. All right. Well, we've got a couple of HomeTech headlines tonight. A little interesting security story. A question about Google Assistant and its continued development in the future. A couple of new products and an interesting report I saw over at CE Pro. We're going to have to talk about and pick TJ's brain, see what he thinks about AV technicians. So what do you guys say we jump into these HomeTech headlines?
Let's do it.
Well, a market-leading garage door controller is so riddled with severe security and privacy vulnerabilities that the researcher who discovered them, Sam Sebaton, I guess, is advising anyone using one to immediately disconnect it until they get fixed. This is an article from Ars Technica. Each $80 device used to open and close garage doors and home security system alarms and smart power plugs employs the same easy-to-find universal password to communicate with the NEXX servers. The controllers also broadcast an unencrypted email address, a device ID, first name, and last initial corresponding to each one, along with the message received required to open or shut the door, turn on and off a smart plug, or schedule a command for a later time. Sebaton estimates that more than 40,000 devices located in residential and commercial properties are impacted, and more than 20,000 individuals have active NEXX accounts, NEXX. According to the post on the researcher's blog, the company has consistently ignored communications attempts from the researcher, Department of Homeland Security, and the media. So if you got one of these things, probably a good idea to unplug it. It sounds like the company's not really looking into it. TJ, we know this isn't what you're using, but have you heard of these guys, NEXX, before?
Yeah, honestly, I have heard of it. I think it's one of the more popular ones that the DIY community kind of recommends because you can just plug it in and it works off Wi-Fi. And as far as I know, it has a lot of integrations with things, so you can easily tie it in with different automation systems. You can use it with Google Assistant and Alexa and all that good stuff. And it's under $100. So it's very easily a go-to product for the garage door control market. I honestly would have thought that they would have sold more, or more would be affected by this. 40,000 kind of seems very low to me. But it's very popular at the end of the day, and I think it does a good job, minus the obviously security risk that they're ignoring here.
Yeah, if the opener opens and closes your door, it does a great job. It does what it's supposed to do. So I agree with that. But
hey, that's very hard these
security,
days.
I know security is hard though, and it's very important, especially in this day and age, because especially when you got cloud connected products. And I was thinking, I'm like, would Matter solve this? And I don't think Matter would solve this, because Matter, I think, still would give you the local control, but these devices will still be designed to talk to a cloud somewhere along the line anyway, right? So I don't, Matter gives you that local control, but if they're still connected to the cloud, they can still get hacked. You can still use their app to open and close it still. It doesn't close that loop. So when I'm looking at devices, especially for my home, I will look for local first. And then if I'm getting cloud connected things, I usually get something that's, people have reviewed security wise, like, or like if it's an Ecobee, if there was ever like a security disclosure, Ecobee is going to be all over that to fix it right away, right? They're not going to sit around on it. They're going to lose too much money. So I look for things like that. I stick with bigger companies for that.
Yeah, it just kind of like looking through this, it looks like, this just looks like it's a poorly designed security model. Of course, they mentioned the joke, the S in IoT stands for security. That's a great joke that has been around for a number of years now. But for the most part, people have gotten better. But these kinds of things to do at scale are tough. So I can understand why they were like, well, we got this thing. It opens a garage door. It works. Let's ship it. Oh yeah. Whoops. You can see people's email address, first, last names, and issue commands later on. Just copy and paste these commands and open somebody's garage door if you know where they are.
And it was pretty bad, the issues they're having. It sounds like it was developed by somebody that doesn't even know security, right? Like, yeah, they just got it working, and it's like, this code works. Yeah, exactly. And they really need to get somebody in there to review this and fix it properly.
I was hoping they can do like a firmware push or something and just re-encrypt everything, get it set up right, make sure the encryption is turned on, not in plain text, where you're sending things back and forth. There's a lot of stuff that can be done here. So they're gonna have a busy time ahead of them, but at least also acknowledge that it's an issue. Pick up the phone and we're working on it. We know it's a problem. We're going to get it done. That's the worst thing these companies can do, is just go dark and not talk to anybody about it.
Well, this is awkward, because one of the points that it makes on the product listing on Amazon is it has excellent support, 7 days a week, US based support. Probably not if nobody can get a hold of them.
Whoops. Well, yeah. I don't know. I'm with Gavin, especially on stuff that's security related. Find something that works locally and use a local controller. Going up to the cloud is great for convenience, but
well, especially something like this where you don't necessarily need it to have cloud access, right? Like you could just pair it to a hub, and that hub has cloud access. But like your garage door controller itself doesn't technically need to connect to the cloud.
You know what I'm finding interesting, and this is kind of a related thing, but VPNs used to be fairly hard to set up. I'll put it in the difficult to understand category of things. With the newer style VPNs that have been coming out, specifically around like WireGuard, and I'm thinking with like Tailscale, it's almost like a one-click deployment. I'm wondering if like there's not a time in the future where that is how maybe there's a company that just basically gives you a VPN profile, adds it to your phone, and just makes a VPN from your phone to your house when you need to connect and talk to your devices, rather than doing this cloud thing. Because the cloud thing is just convenience for what we're trying to do with the VPN.
That sounds like a decent idea, but like, isn't there reports coming out that like the current generation of kids can't even manage file systems and stuff? So I doubt they're going to be able to manage VPNs.
Well, you got to make it simple and easy to use, right? Like, and the cloud is simple and easy to use, right? The setting up, in the before times, it was either like, well, I'll use a VPN. No, that's too hard. I will do port forwarding and be able to access this as long as I know my IP address or whatever, or I'll set up a domain or something like that. And that was kind of like, we all know that we've done it. So it's it's been done before, and like VPN's definitely the way to go. It was just much harder. Now, like I set up, I've been kind of playing around with the Tailscale solution, and it's stupid easy to set up and deploy a VPN between two servers, and magically you're just connected. You're on the same network at that point. Like that is the magic that the cloud is solving. I just think it's an interesting thing to see how fast these newer VPNs have been progressing when it comes to security. The only reason we have these major holes in these server things is just to relay the communications back down to a device that's outside your house. Like, what if that requirement goes away? What if your phone is on your house network at all times and you don't have to worry about that?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I think people are not going to do that because the convenience of the cloud, they go and buy a device and it just automatically connects to a server and they don't have to do any other steps. So like what you're saying totally makes sense. I just don't think people are capable of it, unfortunately.
Make it the same steps is what I mean. Like make the cloud connection, make just what you said, but say it goes over a VPN. They don't know any different, right? Work the same way you just said.
Yeah, but they have to like turn it on in their phone, or if it gets turned off, then what do they do?
No.
They have to go in the settings to turn it on.
No, like somebody needs to figure out how to build it like directly into the app somehow, or just do it that way. So it communicates like that on a per app basis, or
I don't even think you can do that with like iOS, can you? Because iOS, you would have to like go manually go turn it on.
I think there's a per app VPN you can do that with, but it's more enterprise backend stuff. But I think for widespread adoption of something like this, it needs to be built into the OS so people aren't even thinking about it. And somebody like Apple, like I agree with you, Seth, someone like Apple would need to be the driving force behind this. Whether they give a feature, they call it like I'm home or iHome or I'm always home or whatever they want to call it. And it basically connects back to a VPN server sitting on one of your other iDevices at your house so that your phone is always seen at being at home. You can access everything at home and it goes through a VPN. Once it's like that and people are automatically on it and not even thinking about it, then I think you'll have widespread adoption, right? But asking people even to install Tailscale and like, ask 100 people,
no, I'm not,
you know what I mean? Asking them to do anything extra for security wise, people will not do it. They still use the same password with everything.
I think your Apple example is probably the best thing. Like, what if your Apple 4K, which is inside your house, sets up a VPN connection using some, you've got to have the stun service that they're using for Tailscale up in the cloud. There's just a server that basically pairs devices together. Apple has that through iCloud already. Don't have to worry about it. You've got your point A, your point B. They can talk to each other. There's no port forwarding. It's just a direct secure connection. And then what if your Apple TV 4K turns around and talks like you're on the local network? I mean, that's a great example of how this could be deployed and set up. And then, I think you're right. It has to be a major vendor like Apple or a phone vendor that has to build this in directly on the thing. Like, again, it's just replacing what we're trying to do with the cloud to make it more secure without having to worry about cloud servers and these IoT manufacturers setting something up that puts your password and in plain text. Like, it doesn't make sense. So yeah. I don't know.
I can see it.
And the other problem is if it's a VPN, then these I guess vendors won't have access to your data at that point, because if you're communicating directly to a device, they're not going to see what you're sending back and forth, right? And
sounds like perfect for Apple to jump on.
Yeah, it would be perfect for us, but then somebody like NEXX wouldn't see all this stuff that they want to see, right? But then, yeah, they could from their device in your home upload whatever they want to their servers, and they'll still do that over an unencrypted pipe and everything like that. So you kind of lose all that security. You got to trust in the vendor in a way, and some of them just let us down.
Yeah, I have an idea how this would work, and it doesn't involve an outside party. Like it involves like going directly to the device on your home network and setting things up that way. Just as easy as the way we do it now with the cloud. It pairs the device together, take a picture of the little QR code in the back, and you're good to go. Like the same thing, but with a direct connection. Take out the server online. Yeah, it could happen. I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah, not, as I say, not without government intervention, in my opinion. So There's something. I mean, because companies need a reason to do it.
Well, the reason is convenience right now. Like more than your data privacy and all that stuff. Like NEXX only did it because they want to sell a $79 thing to 40,000 people to open doors, and they are just trying to get that thing shipped and out the door. Like that's they're not making money off knowing your first name, last initial, and email, right? Like that's not their business model, supposedly. I don't know anybody that's buying garage door open and close state data either. I mean, maybe there is somebody out there, but like more than anything, the reason these services exist in the cloud is strictly right now convenience. And then what if we took that away? What if we said, I've got a secure pipe 100% of the time to my house. I have these devices and they have this feature. I have it turned on. Go direct. Don't involve some kind of server. I think it'd be good. I think it could work. We'll have to see.
Submit it to Apple. See what happens.
The devices can still report what they're doing up to the server. Like that's nothing stopping them there. Report some kind of analytics. They do that all the time anyway. But the live data, the one that's important, where it's transmitting back and forth, like what you're doing when you arm and what video you have. Like, why not make that secure point to point? Call it a day. I say it's easy because I don't have to do it, but it seems kind of easy.
It's so easy when you don't have to do it. Yep.
All you have to do.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Speaking of things that are easy to do, Innovelli just made a whole bunch of money by telling people they're going to make a light switch. They're introducing a new radar-equipped smart switch that detects the human presence. So basically, if you're sitting in the room and the motion sensor turns on the light, turns the lights off. So TJ, this is for you. The lights get turned off, and you have to wave your hands around like a crazy person to turn them back on. Well, this thing's got a millimeter wave technology built into the switch itself, and it can detect whether your presence is there or not. They say it's the same technology that cars use to detect their surroundings, if they're backing up or that kind of thing. The company's launched an Indiegogo campaign for funding, and over 500 backers have committed to over $180,000, which is about $50,000 more than what they were asking for. So it sounds like this thing's getting made. It's going to come out. TJ, you got to put that in your office there. Keep the lights on.
Yeah, I don't think I can install this in my office though. I'm not, it's just, I think it's like a Lutron motion sensor. So I just need to finish Cubicle 2.0 and I'll be good. Maybe I'll put this in Cubicle 2.0.
Well, I'm not sure when this is going to be out, but I don't know. These guys are fairly open with their timelines and everything. So I'm sure we can go to their forum and find out what it's all about. Gavin, you posted this. What do you like about this thing?
Well, first of all, I think this switch was pretty much in response to Linus Tech Tips when he was griping the other day about his GE switches and the motion detection and stuff like that, right? From that time, he called out Innovelli. Innovelli responded, and they've been working on this for a while now. And it's good to see it's finally coming to fruition. The millimeter wave being built into a light switch, that's an awesome feature. It's not going to work for everybody or in every room. People discuss this in the forums because the light switch isn't always in the most ideal position for a millimeter wave sensor. But sometimes it will work in that room. They've mentioned that they may look into releasing millimeter wave sensors separately. So that's good to see for that too. They also mentioned this is a Zigbee 3.0 version. They mentioned they're working on a Z-Wave 800 version. So that will be good to see too. So they get the best of both worlds. And it's good to see them getting a lot of backers, I love their switches. My whole house, all Innovelli switches. I love what they can do. They're very customizable, very powerful. So I like to see this. My only thing is I want to see it. Let's see what happens in production, because everything millimeter wave that I've tried so far, it's slow to respond first, right? So I usually pair it with like a IR sensor and make that one trigger a light to go on. But the millimeter wave sits there and will keep saying somebody's in the room. You know what I mean? So that's really good like that, but not for its speed. So I wonder if those switches will work well as, turn on the light as I walk in, or will it be a delay?
Yeah, not really a good solution if you need another product to help it out, Hopefully this one doesn't have that problem.
And there's an everything one sensor that was released by one of the YouTube guys, and it's great because he basically paired the two together, and they look like they work really well. You know, the IR sensor kicks in right away, and the millimeter wave sensor then keeps notifying you that somebody's still in the room. And that's kind of what I do in my office here. Is I have those two, and it works really well as a combo. So we'll see how it works if it's just one in that switch.
Yeah, it is definitely a response to the Linus Tech Tips guy, because the project name, I'm just kind of reading through. I mean, they post everything on this. The project name is Project Linus, and they talk about how it was a product pitch to Linus Tech Tips following his issues with those GE motion switches that you're talking about. So that's kind of cool. I like this. This is cool. This is a fun company. So I wish them the best of luck.
That's the best thing about this company. If you're in their forums, you can see the progress. Like you saw the progress of this for a while, even though they just went public in terms of funding. They've been talking about it in their forums for a while, and they talk about a lot of things in their forums, and it's great to read some of the things they have to go through. So just join their forums for like the entertainment forum.
I'm going to share this with you guys. The Project Linus, they have the picture of the Charlie Brown character on it. That's great. Yeah, they post literally everything. So this is like the pitch deck for this particular project. I just downloaded it, and the cover page had that on there. So all sorts of stuff on in there to look at. Like you said, Gavin, man, they talk about everything. People are even posting like, well, these are the specs for the millimeter wave thing that they're going to be using, and here's the SEC filing on it.
They were even comparing sizes of the switch itself in the box, because the depth makes a difference when you're trying to jam all this into a little
Nobody ever
box.
thinks about the depth.
No one ever thinks about that. But these switches are actually thinner, and it's nice to see that because they actually measured it out and showed you how much thinner, so you can look at it.
And the most important thing is that it's upgradable to Matter.
Oh yeah, they'll support that for sure. You know, they've always been big with firmware updates on their devices. They've released updates. There's actually a new update that I was looking at today for my switches. So it's good to see that they don't just abandon them.
Yep. No, we definitely like to see products updated and continued on development. So this is fun. I can see there's people like talking about different products and comparing the features of them and going back and forth. And I don't know, this is fun to watch. If anything, if you ever get bored and have a bucket of popcorn, just go on over to the Innovelli forums there and scroll through them, because man, people are brutal. Jeez Louise. Like, be nice. They're trying to make nice light switches. All right, moving on here. Well, this might not be the nicest. Another R story came out. It was end of last week, right after we recorded our show. And basically posed the question. It's like Google Assistant might be doomed. So the latest news from CNBC, reporter Jennifer Elias says that the Google Assistant division has been, quote, reshuffled to, quote, heavily prioritize Bard over the Google Assistant. Bard's that AI thing they've been working on. All sounds like the team's being reassigned to other projects. So here's a quick recap of the past 2 years of Google. I'm going to go over these bullet points that they posted here. Google Assistant saw 8 major speaker smart display hardware releases in the years 2016 to 2021, but the hardware releases seem to have stopped. I kind of noticed that. Like, there's not the same ones that are out, like the same ones that they've released a while back. It's not like they can improve them very much anymore, but like, they're the same things. They haven't really released them. The last one was released in 2021, 2 full years ago. 2022 saw Google remove Assistant support from 2 in-house product lines, Nest, Wi-Fi, and Fitbit wearables. 2022 also saw a report where the information said Google wanted to, quote, invest less in developing Google Assistant voice assisted search for cars and devices not made by Google. Google Assistant's driving mode was shut down in 2022. The duplex on the web feature was also shut down in 2022. Google kills everything. Reminders is being shut down in favor of Google Task Reminders. And then, of course, Google Assistant has never made money. Hardware is sold at cost, doesn't have ads. Nobody pays a monthly fee for the Assistant. So there's a significant server cost with all the voice commands going through and being processed. And some of the newer devices have moved on to on-device processing with it's basically a cost-cutting move. So Amazon, Alexa, of course, being kind of part of that same report, suffering the same losses up to about $10 billion a year. All those points standing alone may not look so bad, but in total, things start looking differently especially with a new report that has come out saying that everybody's moving around. I guess there was a memo sent out to employees that was titled, quote, changes to assistant and Bard teams. There's a lot of executive changes. Pretty long article over there on ours. They go through all the details of the memo and exactly who is being reshuffled. They must have had a copy of it because they were listing their names and everything. They're naming names. This is crazy to think about. One of the major voice assistants going away. And I know a lot of people like Google Assistant over Amazon or, I mean, the other thing, Siri. Geez, nobody likes that one.
Or Cortana. Don't forget about Cortana. Jeez.
I've already forgotten about Cortana.
Nah, this is kind of sad to hear, to be honest. They should just, and as far as I know, Bard kind of came out and nobody was very happy with it, right? And even when they announced it, there was some errors in the announcement of it. I think it was like spelling errors or something like that. So it's kind of weird just to not see them just roll this into Google Assistant, because Google Assistant's already very well known. So what are they going to do? Just start over from scratch with a completely new thing that everybody has to relearn and re-download so that way they can kill this in like 5-year time?
It's Google, so I mean the answer could be yes.
The answer is 100% yes. I'm just waiting for him to kill like other useful things. Like, who uses Google Maps anymore? Let's go ahead and just get rid of that. Gmail, nobody cares about that either. You know, it's just it's aggravating being a Google supporter. And one of the reasons I don't use Android anymore is just because I'm tired of stuff being killed prematurely. And especially after they do like no advertising on it and no improvements on it for years at a time. It's like, well, of course, that's the end. That's what's going to happen in the end. You know, you're going to kill it because nobody knows about it anymore. So this is super disappointing to hear. I'm not surprised in any capacity, but I just wish they would just roll whatever Bard is trying to be into Google Assistant, because it's already there.
I used to wonder if anybody was working on Google Assistant. Like it barely got any updates. You know, I have all three of them sitting in front of me right now. And honestly, like, I thought Google Assistant gave the best random answers. Like when I asked about sports or something like that, it was the best at giving me those kind of answers, right? But I always felt like the Amazon was...
Wait, random answers or answers to random questions?
Like for random questions,
yeah, okay.
Yes. Answers to random questions.
That's different.
Because random answers is different, yes.
Siri does a great job of giving me random answers.
Random answers, Siri's number one at. You know,
yes,
answers to random questions, Google I found was the best at. But when it came to smart home stuff, I always found Amazon was the best at that, right? And it's more than just what you can do. It was more of the API when I worked on the API and was integrating it and stuff like that. So much powerful things it can do on the back end that people don't take advantage of. But you need to release new product, and Google's known for killing stuff. You know, over the many years, they're known for killing it. And that's one of the reasons, like TJ, I just don't invest heavily in the Google stuff, is because the first time I ever got burnt was when they closed down Google Reader a number of years ago, right? And I use that so heavily.
Still
right?
Sore about that one.
Yeah, I found Reader and I use that now, and it's filled the gap. But, you know, like, I hate when they, you know, something you use so much. If they shut down Gmail tomorrow for whatever reason, I'm in trouble. You know, I'll just be upset. But that's one of the reasons I just don't invest in Google, is just because of that. You know, the things like when they had their Nest, my first one was a Nest, and then they pulled out, you know, they messed with the API and integration was tough. I don't even know if you can integrate it still with everything, or is it still just certain people, you know, but I stopped looking at that, and I went to Ecobee, because Ecobee, you know, integrates with everything. Right. So Google, you know, and like you said, yeah, put Bard in there. That you have the device, you know,
right,
now put the
there.
brains in it. Yeah, put the brains in it. And if you had a working like AI in your device now, like, you got one up on somebody else now. And it shows that somebody's working on it.
Yeah, I was just reading a story. I don't even know where I saw it, probably on Mastodon or something like that. But there's a news story that people are kind of upset that Apple is there's a rumor that Apple is going to be removing cloud services for older Apple devices. And they mentioned like the 3GS. I'm like, I think it was around like 2012 or something. Like that's a really old phone. I mean, I'm sure
if you have a 3GS, you know, you should remove that. You know, like,
exactly. So they're like, messages and things like that might stop working on phones and older computers. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I can understand. Like some of those don't even support, like if you turn, I do this all the time because I have these old servers that are, over here, but like if you turn on an old computer that you haven't turned on in a while, like all the certificates have expired on it. Like it does not want to connect to the internet because it's all insecure, or the browsers that were built for it can't be updated to a 64-bit version, and they can't connect to the websites that are using like the new TLS, where you see the HTTPS and the lock thing at the top. Like all that stuff's been updated, and all the security stuff's been removed. So like the things are basically useless. So I can kind of understand why they may want to move away from supporting those devices that, I mean, they do have the power to update them, but they're definitely well beyond their intended lifespan.
Yeah, one of the most annoying things about my Google Assistant recently is I have two smart bulbs in my bathroom, so that way I can dim them depending on the time of day that we walk in there and everything. So if I say, Google, turn off bathroom lights, it's like, oh, sorry, that device isn't set up yet. But if I say, hey, Google, turn off bathroom light, it responds and said, turn off bathroom lights now, or whatever. And it's like, wait a minute, you know what I'm talking about. And you even say bathroom lights yourself, but you're gonna get angry when I say bathroom lights.
Yeah, well, I
do it every day.
I just use the Siri thing over here, and it doesn't do all the fancy stuff, but it'll turn on and off one light that I want it to turn off on and off every day. That's about all I ask of it, because I know if I ask any more of it, it's not going to happen. Siri's so bad. Like, it's funny. Like we've been saying Siri so bad for years, and then ChatGPT comes out, and people are like hooking up Furbies to it and making it talk from ChatGPT, and it's like, wow, Siri's horrible compared to this. Well, we'll have to include a link to the furry. Here we go again.
Furry, wrong thing.
Whoops. No, the Furby controlled,
wrong audience.
AI controlled Furby. It's not a good thing, guys. Don't do that. So, all right, moving on here. In a recent survey conducted by JobSage, audio and video technicians, otherwise known as AV techs, are currently considered to be one of the most, quote, interesting no-degree jobs currently available to job seekers. This is an article over at CE Pro. Survey results were compiled back in December of 2022 by polling 629 Americans on their level of surprise and interest on 100 different jobs that don't require a college degree. I mean, cool, I guess. Like, hey, it's a sexy job. Come on. You get to like hang TVs, and
you get the blame for everything. You get to install TVs and connect people's Wi-Fi routers. Super sexy.
And you don't even need a college degree for this. I mean, they're just giving away money at this point, I think.
They pay like it too, so I mean, it totally makes sense. That's always been my biggest complaint. I really didn't know that this was an industry until I moved down to Florida, and I randomly found a job on Craigslist doing home automation stuff. But my biggest complaint has always been the lack of people knowing about it, right? Like when you tell somebody you do home automation, like I would wager half the time the response is like, oh, like I didn't realize that was like a real profession.
Mm-hmm.
And then my other gripe has always been that in my experience, it's always been very low pay compared to like other jobs that are, similar skill sets, right? Like, so in Ohio, for example, locksmithing and low voltage both do not require any kind of licensing. You have to have your regular insurance or whatever. But as a locksmith, like a first-year locksmith, I made more money than like a 5-year experienced AV technician.
Yeah.
And so like overall, I think the AV field is super undervalued, but it's not like that. It's not like the companies that are selling the services are not making a lot of money, right? Like all the companies I've worked for in the past are charging, $100 to $200 per hour per technician, but the technicians are making, $20 an hour or less. And that's just not sustainable if you want to actually get people to stay in the field, right?
In a career. Yeah, exactly. You got to make a career around it.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Like it's honestly a career. There's people out there just like IT people. AV is definitely a real field. It's not going away anytime soon. It's definitely a skill set that is crucial in today's world. But until we start telling people about it and we start paying appropriately for it, like it's not going to be a real career for a majority of people, right?
Yeah.
Like there's more to low voltage than just like pulling wire and installing security cameras. It's like setting up conference rooms or setting up distributed audio systems or digital signage. All that good stuff kind of falls under the umbrella. But you need the other parts of it, which is very slow to get there.
Yeah, and I mean, aside from the pay, I guess it's kind of pay related, but I always thought the job roles were just like inversed. Like, and you kind of mentioned it there, and like I will say, as like a programmer, like who I really wanted to be well paid and really good at their job was the guy who wired the house, and it's like the opposite. Like that's where the green guys go in, and you're just like, hey, you're gonna wire a house today. Let me show you how to do one, and then you got all the other ones on your own, and like it's usually somebody that's not. I mean, they get better at it over time, but it's usually the lowest paid staff on staff, and I think if it was kind of flipped around a little bit, or they were paid better, like you would get better work, and the jobs that the technicians at the end wouldn't have to like fix so much. They would be paid probably less because they wouldn't have to have such a high skill set to figure out how to magically make telephone and computer work over one wire. Had to do that before because things weren't pulled right. The wire didn't get pulled. So what am I supposed to do?
Well, and it makes the whole industry look like crap, to be honest. You have these homeowners that are spending, sometimes tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on this technology. And it really comes down to like the installer itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can buy the nicest gear in the world, but the installer makes the biggest difference. And when you have, crappy installers that are doing a terrible job, like those people feel like they wasted their money, and they're not going to want to do that again. So it just leaves a sour taste in people's mouth.
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna harp on CEDIA a little bit too, right? Because CEDIA, in my opinion, is good for the inner workings of the industry, but nobody knows who CEDIA is. Nobody really cares who CEDIA is. Kind of like or I guess the opposite of like the Bixie certification and stuff like that, where it's like there's not an outward push from CEDIA to be known in the world. And so like when you don't have an organization actually supporting you in the outside world, telling people about you and kind of helping them build up that rapport, it doesn't really do anything for the industry as a whole. Having training in the industry is nice, but if nobody knows that training is super critical, or that somebody should have that training, it doesn't really go anywhere, unfortunately.
I think the biggest thing that held them back for so many years was the show. Like the show was a major distraction for that organization, for the size of it, the size of the show, the size of the organization. I've run shows about that size, maybe a little bit bigger, and it's basically all you think about all year. That's your one thing to do. And yeah, you got membership, you got education things, but committees can take care of those. You don't have to worry about, like, what you're focused on is making sure that show happens without a hitch. And when they got rid of it, I was like, oh, that's interesting. They'll be able to do what an organization does. Like they'll be able to focus on training. They'll be able to focus on the getting the word out and that kind of thing. And to their credit, I think they have a new, like it's moved away from being the good old boys club.
The new CEO is doing a lot better, in my opinion.
That video that they came out with not too long ago, I think we may have talked about on the show. Like it's an inspiring video. It makes me want to be an AV tech. Yeah. So, but maybe they showed everybody these in the survey that video, and they're like, oh, I really, really want that job.
Look, if you told me a year ago I would be a CEDIA member, I would tell you you're crazy, just because it didn't seem like it was a value to me. But now it kind of seems like they're shifting focus and they're kind of working on that. So like I'm a CEDIA member now because of that.
Same.
So it'll be interesting to see how it kind of transitions and what they do with it. But we need stuff like this because it's not going to go away. It's only going to get bigger. And as these people are going to trade schools to become electricians and plumbers and HVAC technicians, they need to know about AV as well, because it is an interesting field. One of my favorite things is making things work and going into a different place every day and kind of playing with technology and stuff. And there's a lot of other people that are like that, and they really enjoy that line of work. They just don't know that it exists.
Yep, exactly.
And we need less IT people. So.
Gavin's like, he's like shaking his head. I agree. Wait a minute. Hold
Whoa,
up.
whoa. Here, I was going to say a bunch of good things about you guys, and you had to end it off with that. What? Wait a minute here.
Gosh, if we could save some people from becoming IT people, I think that's worth it alone.
Oh, you guys are going in the direction ITs have been in for years now, so don't worry about it.
Oh,
but,
downward spiral.
Yep. But we actually, it's interesting because we see this in other industries too, where you don't need college degrees to get jobs in certain things, because they're finding, I guess, when you come out of college, you have either just a basic degree or they're already behind in the technology. They may have learned some fundamentals, but, they're finding people coming out of high school with even better skills at programming, for example, in certain languages than people that went to university for 5 years. So it's not just your industry, but I see it in other industries. But you guys still have certifications. We still have training that you do, outside of a college, right? That help you with your job, because especially in your field, things are changing every day. You have HDMI 2.1 today, you have 2.2 tomorrow, and you got to go to training to learn everything that's different and how it works on these devices and stuff like that. So it's never ending. So you guys still have to keep doing certifications or vendor training to understand how their devices work, and you can do some of it on your own, or some of it, I guess, through your vendors. They host training for you. So it's never ending. To say it's not a college degree, I don't think. Maybe when you come into the field, some things people, you don't need anybody with a college degree. If you're just going to have them unloading the truck, then yeah, I don't think they need a college degree for that. And I'm sure if they were unloading your truck for 20 years, they learned something by then where they can actually hang the TV or install a TV too. And they got on the job training, and sometimes you find valuable people that way too. So it's not just your industry.
No. This survey goes on. I mean, there's a lot in this survey. 70% of people believe college degrees are less important than they used to be. I mean, I'm absolutely one of them. Like,
me too.
Yeah, I used to. That's how you got a job, and but that's no longer the case. Like,
I have not used anything I learned in university in my job. Like, I came out of there and I did not learn anything. I got my job. I learned on the job, and I'm self-taught a lot of the time.
Yep. Well, here's the top 5 most interesting jobs that require no degree. Number 5, chefs and head cooks, which I mean, definitely an interesting job. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
A lot of cocaine. Number 4, commercial pilots, also a lot of cocaine. Number 3, sound engineers, also a lot of cocaine.
Interesting.
Number 2, audio and video technicians. I don't know. I don't think there's any cocaine there. Just they're crazy.
Oh, there's a lot of cocaine.
All right. And then number 1, most interesting, is private detectives and investigators, investigating the previous jobs, I guess. But
it's probably just weed in the AV industry.
Weed,
to be honest.
It's just vape pens filled.
Bunch of potheads.
And in my neighborhood, every neighbor is a private investigator. They're watching everything you do.
Oh, there you go. Here's the least interesting jobs: gambling managers. Number 4, computer numerically controlled tool programmers.
Gambling manager was a job.
Know what that is?
Yeah. What was that? Computer what?
Computer numerically controlled tool programmers. Oh.
Like a CNC.
Yes, it must be it. Yeah, CNC.
Okay.
CNC. Yeah. Personal service managers. Don't even know what that is. Commercial divers. Like, okay. And then telecommunication line installers and repairers. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not a very interesting job, but it is what it is. It's part of.
Sounds muddy.
Yeah, well, I guess, or climbing poles and that kind of stuff. That's your thing. A lot of cocaine.
Yeah, a lot of cocaine.
Gavin's a pole climber. He looks like one.
Did you say dancer or climber? All right. Anyway,
Wait,
let's move
hold
on.
Wrong show.
Pole climber.
Let's move on.
All right. All the links and topics, most all the links and topics we discussed tonight can be found in our show notes over at HomeTech.fm/430. All right, we got a little bit in the mailbag this week, and it's a question that TJ and I immediately read and just said at the same time in our respective states. Gavin. So Mitch writes in, I'm using the latest Blue Iris and Code Project AI. Do you know of any way to not get notifications for cars that remain parked in the driveway? It seems that a notification will go off when lighting flashes or car lights reflect off the parked vehicles. or blowing tree casts a shadow on the vehicle. And, the Code Project AI seems like it's gathers that object and says, oh, there's a car, and gives him an alert. He says, I want to know if a car enters and leaves the driveway, but I don't need notifications for a car that remains parked there most of the time. Thanks, guys. So I'll say it again. Gavin?
I saw this question. I instantly thought you guys would have no clue. So I'll just jump in here, thanks Mitch for the question. And all I have to say is I have the exact same problem you have. You're not alone here. It just hasn't been a big enough problem for me, but it's been on my list of things to solve. What's happening is basically, I guess, your cameras are getting triggered. They're sending the images over to I keep wanting to say Deep
State,
but it's Code Project now. And it's seeing the cars. Now, I'm assuming you already have the detect/ignore static option turned off in the settings. We'll just assume you already have that. But I'm going to tell you some of the things I was going to look at myself when I had a moment to do it. But I was going to first look at adjusting the triggers. So what's happening is it's triggering the camera that, hey, something's happening. And then it's starting to send the images over to Code Project to analyze for, objects. I'm thinking I'm going to adjust those triggers so that not as many things are sent over for analysis. So you can do things like setting the minimum object size so that the light, a small light is not going to trigger an analysis because a car is a big object in the field. So, you can make it pretty big and it'll still pick up the cars, but it won't pick up the things like the lights beaming off the windows and stuff like that. So look at that. You can also mess with the object detection setting. There's one in there I know that will only cause a trigger if the object moves a certain distance. So if this object's sitting still and a light just shows up on it, it won't actually trigger because that light didn't actually move, right? So that's pretty good. There's also settings for, you could set how much confidence it has in what it detected too. So if it's detecting a tree as a person, it may say, this is a person, but we're only 30% confidence. You actually can set that threshold. So you can say, only notify me if it's 70% confident. So it really knows it's a person, right? These are settings you're gonna have to toggle and tweak. It's worth the time. It will take some time. There's also a tool in Blue Iris called the AI Analyzer. And you can actually, if you miss a notification, you can run it through this and see what it detected or what it didn't detect.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, you can adjust even more your settings so that if you really want to detect that, then you can make some tweaks and see if it will detect it there. So, you got to play around with those tools. All that stuff's in the documentation. They have really good documentation if you read it. But those are just some of the things I was going to look at to try and solve my problem. I don't know if it will solve the problem, but that's where I'm starting at.
It sounds like the initial problem that he's having is the triggers are going off possibly when they shouldn't be, and then the code project thing, AI thing, is just saying, okay, here's an image and it has a car in it, so that's
yes,
I got motion and I know there's an image with a car in it. It puts it together and says that's an event. But so, I would look heavily into trying to figure out how you can debug those trigger events, because like you said, you can play back that video and put different settings. Like you can say, well, in this case, you can tweak the trigger settings as you're playing back over and over again. I don't know. Trees are tough though. Trees are really hard because those can do wonky things and really fool a camera and set off, like a big tree shadow can move over all of a sudden, or my backyard goes off all the time. Not for trees. I have no trees in my backyard. And it's not Clippy running around back there. It's clouds. Like the cloud will go over, the fast cloud will go over, and all of a sudden it gets real dark in the backyard, and the camera triggers. And it's like, well, yeah, okay, because of a large portion of this frame, the pixels went from like a bright green to a dark green, so it thinks of this motion, and that's all.
And there's actually a setting for that too. So you could say if something this size, if 60% of the frame changed at once, for example, don't trigger. There's settings for that too. There's so many settings.
There's so many
that
settings.
You can tailor. Yeah, it's so many settings. For things like trees, they are tricky. But like I said, sometimes they pick up a tree as a person, but they only say it's 40% confident.
Yeah.
So that's when I kind of tweak that to say, okay, you have to be at least 60% confident. I'd rather get the random notification than missing, the important ones too.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it would kind of suck if you have automations based off that. Like if somebody comes, so that's one of the things I had a problem with Blue Iris, was like detecting when somebody drove into the driveway, like he's trying to do. Like the Blue Iris does not have good support for that. Like they have like a path where you can move into from point A to point B. Like it'll detect if the motion moved between those two squares or whatever, or across the line.
Zones.
Yeah, the zone. Yeah, but it's not intuitive, and I think they could probably make it a lot better. All the major AI camera companies out there, you draw a line and you say if something walks over the line this way, count it this way, and if something walks over the line this way, you count it that way, and you send a different event. And Blue Iris just doesn't do that. It's a completely different setup, and I don't know why. They should do the line thing, line triggers.
Yeah. And Blue Iris is one of those jobs that requires a degree for, like
yeah, you have to have
that
a
complicated. Yeah, it's that complicated, but it's that popular. It's that powerful. So once you get to know it, you start to like it.
Yeah, I like it. I do not like all the settings. That's just, there's a reason that integrators don't touch this because they don't have college degrees, but also because there's so many settings, and you have to really just want to get in there and tweak and dig and dig and dig. And then once you get it set up, it's perfect. Like it really can do a lot of stuff really well.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I hope that helps out, Mitch. Moving on, we got a little pick of the week. You guys ever wanted to redecorate your room, but just didn't know like what you wanted to put in it?
All the time.
I was gonna say all the time.
Well, AI has you covered. There's this little website. You can take a picture of your room and then click a button. It says generate your dream room, and off to the races you go. It'll take your original room and put shag carpeting over the wall, all over the fireplace. I think that's what this one looks like. It'll completely redecorate your room. And it looks fun. Like, I don't know, people have somehow put this together where it seems to be open source too. So I believe you can like launch your own. Yeah, it's open source. So whatever model they're using, they've made public, and you can go in and generate rooms. You can tell it what you want to have in it.
This is perfect for the people that redecorate their room like every other month. You can just do that on the computer and then see what it looks like before you redecorate.
Or perfect for people with no style that just don't know how to decorate a room. This wouldn't.
Whoa! Why you calling me out like that?
Well, I didn't call you out, but since you mentioned it, TJ,
he's got a virtual background for a reason.
I know.
Yeah, that's right. No, this is really cool. I could see this. See, this is like one of the things that I think the AI would be useful for, right? Is like just stuff like this where you just kind of put in what you have now. Maybe you put in what colors you like or what objects you like, and it's just like this is what it'll look like.
And step it up one. Put like tags on it so you know where to order these things from. Like if it's Amazon links.
Well, that's the Amazon model, so.
Exactly. Well, that's what they should have on there. So I know I like this layout. Where can I buy it? And just make it easy for me.
The AI is like, actually, I just made this all up. You can't buy any of it.
It's all made up.
Yeah. This is you can't afford if you need to ask for this.
I guess it uses a machine learning model to generate variations of the rooms. The application gives you the ability to upload a photo of any room, which it will send through the model, and use an API route to basically generate a new room for you. So sounds fun. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. Go wild. Go generate some rooms. We want to see them. Let us know what they look like. The little like original rooms, generator rooms, they have a couple examples. They look pretty good. So, I mean, there's odd things and for sure, but like if you wanted to, I could see this being toned down and used like for MLS listings, right? Like you could like say, oh, this could be your house.
Oh, you could virtually stage it. Yeah. Good idea.
The computers are going to change the world.
Nah, they're just a fad.
Well, if you have any feedback, questions, comments, picks of the weeks, fads, or great ideas for a show, give us a shout. Our email address is feedback@HomeTech.fm, or you can visit HomeTech.fm/feedback and fill out the online form. A couple of quick project updates. I haven't done anything, so yeah, it's been busy, and I've been watching Clippy cut my lawn. I have a nice little video of him zooming around the other day, cutting my lawn, and my lawn doesn't need to be cut. I just wanted to make him work because he's had a couple of days off. And
robot.
Yes, yeah. So he was out there doing his thing, happily scuttering back and forth, and I was watching him on the camera inside at the air conditioning because it's like 80 degrees here. I don't know if you guys know, like it's hot.
You're making Clippy work in that weather. Oh my
gosh, he loves it. Don't let him tell you that.
I read a review actually the other day of one of the Husqvarna. I hope I said that right. Lawnmowers. somebody bought one and they put it in their yard, and their yard was way bigger than yours, right? Probably 3 or 4 times the size of yours. And this thing just went out and did a little piece every day.
Yep.
And they loved it. It makes me so jealous. I gotta start putting, toonies into a jar, just, save up for mine, because I'm getting jealous. This weekend I'm gonna be doing a lot of yard work. I'm gonna be sitting out there looking at the lawn saying, I need something that can cut this automatically.
Yeah. What's nice about it is like it'll work for 8 hours, on and on. Like it'll go back and do a recharge and then go back out and mow some more. And like I don't keep up with it. I don't know what it's doing. But like after a couple of days of it working 8 hours, over that period of time, it's run over most of the lawn. Like it's
got to start over.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just out there doing a maintenance run rather than just like how I would do it. I'd wait for the grass to be at least knee high before I'd get up there with a push mower and just suffer. This is a much better solution by far.
Yep.
So that's all I got. But I can see, Gavin, you have some things in here about your poor home assistant. What's going on? Is it breaking? You break it?
No, it's not. No, it's not breaking. It's not like the house is burning down or anything like this. But they did release this week. We talked about it last week. They released the 2023.4 release this week.
Oh, of course. Yeah, this week.
Yeah, and we went through all the new features last week of what was going to be in it. But the one thing that we didn't cover last week that came out over the weekend was that one of the things that they changed on the back end is it broke a lot of the custom cards. Right. So before you upgrade, word of advice, just go into your hacks, install all the updates for all the install all updates in general. Right. And that way, once you upgrade, your dashboards won't be as affected. One thing that hit me was I had a bunch of custom CSS for, my dashboards. Some of that broke. So now I'm, working on fixing it, but it's not major. It's just some small things here and there I got to tweak. But the upgrade went pretty well. But just keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, I should update. I should do the 2023.4. I'm on the 2023.03, which is March. Time to move on, Seth.
Yep. Time to move on, Seth.
TJ, you got anything going on? You still working in Zoom rooms?
Yep, still finishing the Zoom rooms this week, hopefully, knock on wood here. Working on Cubicle 2.0 now that I'm not sick. And I got some van stuff. I actually changed out the van steering wheel this past weekend. It was probably the scariest thing I've ever done, to be honest. I had to, remove the battery terminal, let the power drain a little bit, remove the airbag, and I put the new steering wheel on.
Wow.
I got to take it to the Chevy dealership to have it programmed, all so I can have cruise control and audio controls of the steering wheel. So that'll be nice. I think I'm going to replace my radio with a new radio. I've got like a 10-inch, one of those janky Chinese Android Auto CarPlay radios that you buy on Amazon for like $200 or $300. I'm going to do that. But I'm ready to get this big job over with. It's been draining. If you've ever worked on a large job before, you just know that it's just the time suck, and it just kind of kills your motivation to do other things. So,
Yep. Because especially like you have the time suck, but then it's like also you're supposed to be lining up new jobs for whenever this thing is done.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I'm done working. I don't want to work anymore.
Yeah. The last thing I want to do is like call people back at the end of the day. Like you work till like 5 o'clock at night, and it's like, oh, I need to send emails out and stuff. So I'm ready for it to be finished. But honestly, like the Zoom rooms have been super easy. I kind of just want to transition to like fully commercial now, just because it's like it's so simple in the grand scheme of things, right? Like I'm using these D10 TVs, and you literally just plug it in, you use an activation code, and like that's it. Like there's not much configuration to them. And even like I have like a large conference room with 4 speakers and Aver moving camera and like 2 of the Shure Ceiling 1 microphones. And like you plug it all in and you program it. And it took like maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours to like actually program everything. And it just works. Like it's just so simple. And in the commercial space, there's not really like people's emotions in it, right? It's just like they just want it to work. Like they use it for work, so it just needs to function, and like that's it. Like they just don't care that much about it. So that's been super nice, but yeah, I'm ready for it to be finished.
Well, hopefully next week. Yeah, it reminds me, I did actually install one of those random Android Auto things in my wife's car over the weekend. So I guess I really did something. Not really home project related.
Yeah, that's fine. It's technology.
Technology, yeah. It seems to work. I got some breaking news here, guys. Home Assistant has found a new device on my network. So,
Oh, is it a printer?
I have no idea. There's a whole list of things here. I have no idea what it found, but
That's probably because you just rebooted it for the first time in a month.
yes, that's why. That's why. Oh well, I've got a notification. New device is found. There we go. It found the sun. Ooh, that's cool.
Oh.
We don't have that up here.
It's because it's installed on mine. You just got to install hacks. I know a guy. He can help you. All right. We want to give a big thank you to everyone who supports the show, but especially those who are able to financially support the show through our patron page. If you don't know about the patron page, head on over to HomeTech.fm/support to learn how you can support HomeTech for as little as $1 a month. Any pledge over $5 a month gets you a big shout out on the show, but every pledge gets you an invite to our private Slack chat, The Hub, where you and other supporters of the show can gather every day and talk about, did we talk about the Furby thing? No. Richard posted a fun picture in there that I in turn posted at work, and some people were like, what happened here? I'm like, well, it's just wrong. Like, you shouldn't do that. Like, I guess.
TV mounted to a drainage pipe.
Yeah. They found what they thought was a stud. It was not a stud. It was the.
It's a plastic stud.
It was a
plastic. Does not exist.
Exactly. Yeah. So maybe we'll put that in the show notes too. You can go check that out over at HomeTech.fm. So, it's all sorts of fun stuff that flies by in there every day, and good conversation about stuff going on out in the world right now. If you want to help out the show but can't support financially, totally understand. Just appreciate a 5-star review on iTunes or a positive rating in the podcast app of your choice. That wraps up another week of news here on HomeTech. Everybody, have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
Take care.
Farewell. All right, what about catch you later?
Oh.
That one's not good.
Nah.
What about off Wiedersehen?
Man.
Auf Wiedersehen. Come on.
I'm not cultured. Sorry.
We know.